Yaffee program on WVNN.
Kicking myself now because I was just thinking I should have a sounder of Trump saying you're fired, because that's what he did to Kristi Noem. I should have had that ready. I could try to do an impression, not the greatest at impressions, but Kristi Noem, I guess, has been fired, even though it's not quite how President Trump put it. They're spinning it in a more positive way, but really does seem like she was fired. My question for you, though, I'd love to get your take here on our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. Are you glad that she's gone? Do you think it's a mistake by Trump to fire her? Do you like her replacement, Mark Wayne Mullen? Did Trump cave to the pressure of the propaganda press? Or maybe it was time for her to go? She made some pretty big mistakes. Tell me what you think. I mean, you can just say yes or no if you want on the text line, but I'd like to get an explanation. We'll kind of do a kind of on-the-spot poll here on whether you approve of Trump firing her. Maybe you just trust Trump's judgment, and there you go. But it does appear that she is gone. We're going to cover more of that later on in the show, but I really do want to get your reaction. I'll read your text messages throughout the show to get your reaction. But we have to talk about the latest in Iran. There actually is breaking news on that front, so we'll get to that in a moment. You are listening to the Yaffee program. This is the show where you can count on the latest news, the important guests, and the best analysis, all for your morning commute here on Newstalk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. And yes, also coming up on the show today, we have those Alabama bullet points, the top stories from around the state, some interesting stuff, as you can imagine, going through the Alabama legislature. Brad Presnall is a political consultant. He's going to join me at the bottom of the hour. Later on, we have to, believe it or not, there might actually be a voice of reason back on The View. I kid you not. There was a take on The View, of all places, where you could say it was a voice of reason. Not me, of course. If they really wanted a voice of reason, they wouldn't invite me on, and then I could be. But no, so we'll talk about that later on. Like I said, we'll go over the latest with Kristi Noem. I'm going to go over kind of the history that led up to this point. A couple of different factors why Trump made that decision. And Walker is here. Don't want to forget that. She's producing today, and she's going to do What's Trending later on. Walker, how are you today, by the way?
I'm doing great because I had the best, it's going to sound weird, but the best frozen pizza I've ever had last night.
I mean, a decent cold pizza out of the fridge isn't bad, but what was so good about this one?
So it's a new one they're selling it at Target. It's called DeFara. It's from a place in Brooklyn. And
it was that good, huh?
It was so good.
Okay. It's funny. I had pizza yesterday, which was really good, but I ate too much of it.
Oh.
So, you feel it.
I had the leftovers for breakfast this morning.
Did you have the leftovers cold or did you warm it up?
I warmed it up.
Do you ever eat pizza? You gotta eat cold sometimes.
I eat it cold sometimes. Usually if it's like takeout.
Okay. Well, there you go. Walker's in a great mood because of pizza, but of course.
Yeah.
Of course he's in a great mood because of pizza. By the way, some people weighing in already here on our text line, the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. One person said, I missed it. Who was fired? See, this, I understand that you missed the news because you don't listen to the news until my show, and then I update you. So I get Kristi Noem, who is the Department of Homeland Security Secretary. She has basically been fired. Her last day is at the end of the month. Trump said he's moving her to a different position, but it seems like, and like I said, I'll go over it later, but it seems like he was firing her. Another person said, yes, I think President Trump made the right call in firing her, and I do like her replacement. So there you go. Someone trusts Trump already. So I want to get your take. I'll read the text throughout the show, but I really like to know your opinion. I think it's the right call, too. I'll just start with that up front. I think it's the right call. By the way, some pretty big breaking news when it comes to Iran here. President Trump posted this on Truth Social this morning. I do like that Trump gets up and he's like, I gotta post this here. I gotta do this against Iran here. But he said, There will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. After that, and the selection of a great and acceptable leader, we and many of our wonderful and very brave allies and partners will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, making it economically bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. He said Iran will have a great future. Make Iran great again. MEGA. MEGA sounds funny, but I do like it. And a lot of the protests in favor of Iran that's happened since this war started, you see MEGA, which is cool. But he said, thank you for your attention to this matter. So he is calling for unconditional surrender. Now, a lot of this started because yesterday he was asked about, what happens next in terms of the leadership. And he had mentioned that maybe it looks like as of now, Iran might select the Khamenei's son, who might be worse than the Ayatollah was, who was just killed. And Trump said that's unacceptable and that he wants to be a part of the process in selecting a new leader. That we can't do all this and just have someone worse come in. So that would explain now why, if you're going to do that, then you want unconditional surrender from Iran to take place. Now, this is an escalation. This is very different than Venezuela. Venezuela, they took the leader and we basically let them continue on with their government, but just sent a message, hey, you better play ball. There was some thinking that maybe Trump would do it this time, but this is much more than just playing ball. This is being actively involved. Because if you have an unconditional surrender, part of that would be you're actively involved in the replacement after the fact. It's an escalation. I'm curious what maybe you think about that. Does that worry you? Tell me on the text line, 866-494-9866. By the way, on this front, I'll play some audio here because Trump talked about it yesterday. Pete Hegseth talked about it yesterday. Go ahead and play a Trump cut one for me, Walker.
With the wonderful Israeli partners continues to totally demolish the enemy far ahead of schedule and at levels that people have never seen before, actually. We have the greatest military anywhere in the world. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour, knocking them out like nobody thought was possible. As soon as they set off a missile, within 4 minutes, the launcher gets hit. They don't know what's happening. I'm once again calling on all members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the military, and the police to lay down their arms. They're only going to be killed. And now is the time to stand up for the Iranian people and help take back your country.
Kristi Noem is gone.
You can stop it right there. Walker. It seems to me that President Trump, I don't know if they have information on the ground in terms of maybe somebody in the military leadership or the military might surrender, or if they don't want to, and this is to put more pressure on them. Now, go ahead if you can. Play Pete Hegseth as well. This is our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, on the latest.
You and your team have delivered nothing short of devastating, precise strikes, taking out the better part of Iran's Navy, making it combat ineffective, neutralizing missile sites and launchers, and establishing total dominance over the skies we fly over and seas. Iran is doing everything it can to peddle in lies, deception, and inflation of numbers and reality, mostly to propagandize to their own people, right? They've shut down the internet. They're hoping they can convince their own population that they're having success.
I can't imagine anyone in that population is really convinced that Iran is having any success. I mean, they could try, I guess, but I can't even imagine that. But we all know what this is really about. And I said this after Operation Midnight Hammer. I said this after the operation in Venezuela. What this is about is China. Not just to send a message to China about our sophistication and what we can do, but we have to understand Venezuela and Iran, they were basically proxies for China. China was getting oil from them, but they were causing so much of a problem. Iran and her proxies were causing so much of a problem for us in the Middle East, for world trade in the region, that it was distracting us from being able to build up our own military to face a threat, the real threat, which is from China. So it seems that Trump just said, we're going to take out the core of the problem. And the core of the problem was Iran in that region. If we can just take out Iran, get rid of their missile capabilities, basically gut the terrorist proxies in the region, then we're not wasting missiles going after them constantly. We can remove that distraction, build up again, so we can be prepared so China doesn't invade Taiwan, or be prepared if they do invade Taiwan. Now, Russia is a part of this as well, but really, it's all about China. And it's interesting because China has not reacted too much, but it affects them. So it's sending a message to our biggest adversary in the world, which is China. Some say we're in a new Cold War with China. So just like a lot of the conflicts in the 20th century were basically because of the Soviet Union, in the Cold War with the Soviet Union, it seems like a lot of the conflicts we deal with now are because of our Cold War with China. But I'd love to get your take. I'm also asking, do you think Trump made the right decision in firing Kristi Noem? I mean, someone texted and said maybe we shouldn't say she got fired, instead just transferred. I mean, okay. I mean, technically you're right. She was, quote unquote, transferred. But once you see all the details of what led up to this, she was pretty much fired. But I want to get your take. Do you support Trump's decision in firing Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem? Do you like Mark-Wayne Mullen, who is currently the senator from Oklahoma? He is going to be appointed, probably confirmed, as the secretary over DHS. Tell me what you think. 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. That is our Yaffee text line. You can always weigh in there. By the way, it's brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. Got the bullet points next here on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
We're back here on the Yaffee program, News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. This is Alabama's smart talk radio. As you know, if you miss any of the show live, the podcast will be up on the website, WVNN.com, or pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts, or you can download the WVNN app. Find it there. In a few minutes, Brad Presnall is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. He wants to talk about the U.S. Senate race in Alabama. I think he's working for one of the candidates now, so we'll discuss that and more. Speaking of Alabama news, let's get to it. We have those Alabama bullet points.
Alabama bullet points. Today's headlines from around the Yellowhammer State.
Brought to you by Larry's Pistol and Pawn. Number 4 today, State Senator Sam Gavan says it would be a big mistake to call a special session within the 2027 general session to pass gambling similar to the 2019 gas tax hike. So Alabama State Senator Sam Gavan out of Huntsville stated that it would be a big mistake for outgoing Governor Kay Ivey to call a special session, potentially by recessing and reconvening within the 2027 general legislative session to push through gambling legislation. He compared the tactic to Governor Ivey's 2019 approach with the rebuild Alabama gas tax hike, warning that it can invite legal challenges for gambling issues and undermine proper process. Now, he said this on Dale Jackson Show. Of course, he suggested that incoming Governor Tommy Tuberville might prefer to assess the issue himself upon taking office, potentially blocking any last-minute lame duck effort by Ivey to secure gambling a bill legacy there. Number 3, and I think this is a good thing, a bill requiring English proficiency for CDL drivers is heading to the governor's desk. So Alabama Senate Bill 242, which was sponsored by State Representative Steve Klaus out of Ozark, has passed the House and now heads to Governor Kay Ivey's desk for her signature. Now, the bill requires holders of commercial driver's licenses, or CDLs, issued by foreign governments to demonstrate English proficiency and provide valid entry documentation to operate commercial vehicles in the state. Now, it imposes penalties for violations, such as using false licenses or operating without proper documentation, and aims to codify existing federal regulations into state law. That way, it can improve highway safety and empower law enforcement to remove unqualified or illegal operators. Now, supporters include the Alabama Trucking Association, argue it could prevent accidents and save lives, which, of course, it can. Number 2 today, the Coast Guard apparently is going to buy the Birmingham Southern old campus for a new training center. So the U.S. Coast Guard has selected and will acquire the former Birmingham Southern College campus in Birmingham, Alabama, which is a 192-acre site that closed in 2024 due to financial difficulties. Well, the Coast Guard's going to use it possibly for a new training center. Now, this was announced by Alabama federal lawmakers and supported by Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Coast Guard Commandant Adam Kevin Lunday. Now, the facility will support recruit training, include housing for up to 1,200 recruits. It also will have a medical center, classrooms, and capacity for up to 15,000 personnel overall. Now, chosen after a nationwide search for its turnkey-ready features requiring minimal investment, and apparently this was something that was really pushed by Katie Britt, Senator Britt. So there you go. And number 1, Senator Tommy Tuberville calls for the deportation of anyone who is practicing Sharia law. And he said this in the context of the strike against Iran. He said Sharia law, radical Islam is a death cult. So U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville delivered a Senate floor speech strongly supporting President Donald Trump's military strikes on Iran, which he described as destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities and eliminating the terrorist Ayatollah. Now, in the same remarks, Tuberville labeled radical Islam not a religion, but a death cult and a political ideology that encourages killing infidels. He warned of its threat to the U.S., claimed elements of Sharia law are being enforced in some American towns and cities already, and called for immediate deportation of anyone who practices Sharia law or believes it supersedes the U.S. Constitution and American law, asserting that such views are anti-American and incompatible with a free society. So we'll definitely have to talk more about that later. He's actually introduced a couple of pieces of legislation that would ban Sharia law being law in the country. He did say, you can practice Islam, but as long as you stick with the laws of the Constitution and you don't think Sharia law supersedes the Constitution and state constitution too, then you can stay. But if you're just going to enforce Sharia law above the U.S. Constitution, then you should be deported. Makes a lot of sense. Now, if you're going to do a law like this, you got to be pretty specific. You can't just say that anything that is Islamic is Sharia law. You better be very, very specific on what you mean by Sharia law, because there are different interpretations out there. By the way, the bullet points brought to you by Larry's Pistol and Pawn. Go to the one in Madison today for the best selection of jewelry. Keep telling you about that. Now, you don't have to just take it from me. My wife, I got her diamond earrings there. She loved them. But my mom went there, got a sapphire ring. Got it for a great price, of course. She was looking for something like that. They had it for her. They resized it. I mean, they could do that too. Sometimes you get a ring and obviously it doesn't fit. You want it to fit. So they did that for her. Now, if you're looking to get engaged, they have a lot of diamonds available, a lot of engagement rings available, and they can help you out with all of that. But the best part is you're going to get it for a great price. Now, maybe you're thinking, okay, I'll get engaged later this year. Well, then you can put it on layaway to help pay it off. And I'm guaranteeing you that a lot of other jewelry stores are not offering that. So go to Larry's Pistol and Pawn in Madison for the best selection of jewelry in town. They have a lot of other great stuff to shop for there as well. And you can pawn or sell anything of value at Larry's. There's another location, as you know, in Huntsville off North Memorial Parkway. And as always, see the latest sales ad at pistolandpawn.com. That's pistolandpawn.com. And you go, let them know Yaffee was the one who sent you. So the question of the day, which I want to get your take on our Yaffee text line, do you support Trump firing Kristi Noem? And do you support the replacement, Markwayne Mullin? Or do you think maybe Trump caved? Or, just tell me. Usually you trust Trump's judgment, I guess. So let me know on our text line, 866-494-9866. Brad Presnell, as well, political consultant, joins me next here on the Yaffee program.
It's the Yaffee Program on WVNN.
When you really need care, you need 24/7 access to a care team, not a maze of paperwork from a third party. Every day, America's hospitals and health systems show up for you. Navigating healthcare can feel overwhelming, but you can count on real doctors, real nurses, real people, providing quality, around-the-clock care when you need it most. They're in your corner, in communities across America. Your neighbors, your lifelines, right beside you, holding your hand and helping find answers. That's what putting patients first actually means. Learn more at strengthenhealthcare.org. Brought to you by the Coalition to Strengthen America's Healthcare.
Welcome back to Friday edition of the Yaffee Program. Newstalk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Of course, you can always listen online at WVNN.com. Any of your smart devices like Siri, Google, Alexa, or the iHeartRadio app or the TuneIn Radio app. Check us out live if you can't listen on the radio. Joining me right now, as he does every Friday at this time, is Brad Presnell. He's a political consultant, does work for Senator Tommy Tuberville, who's running for governor. Also the AEA, and you have a new client, Brad. You're working for Rodney Walker, who is running for the U.S. Senate. So, Brad, how are you today?
Doing well, Yaffee. Thank you. You are correct. I have joined the United States Senate campaign of Rodney Walker, and I think he's the perfect candidate. He's pro-family, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-America, a strong Christian, and a man who's experienced the American dream through hard work. And Yaffee, he wants every American to have the same opportunity he has had through the free enterprise system, and he's going to fight for Alabama to do that. He's a really conservative guy. There's no slick-talking politician in him at all. He is plain-spoken. He understands the problems that we face as a state and a country, and I'm thrilled to be working with him and his goal to be our next United States Senator.
And I want to remind people he's going to be running against Steve Marshall, Barry Moore, and Barry Moore has been endorsed by Trump. Also, Jared Hudson, who we've all had on the show. I think we had Rodney on. I'll have to get him on again, though, in the future. Kind of an uphill battle, though, I have to be honest, Brad.
Well, he's an outsider. Not many people know him outside of the lanes he's been in, which is, of course, as a businessman. He's founded and grown several businesses, Yaffee, and, you know, he's willing to put up some of his own money because he believes in Alabama and himself and this candidacy. And I think on this level of campaign, United States Senate, if you put in a good bit of your own money, it shows that you won't be beholden to special interest. And if somebody gets $5 million in their bank account from a source, that candidate is bought and paid for, and Rodney Walker definitely is not bought and paid for. And people will be seeing and hearing a lot more from him as we get closer, because I know Rodney is going to have a lot of TV ads and it's going to go up heavy. And, of course, he's on the road constantly from the state line in Tennessee to the Florida state line and Mississippi and Georgia and all points in between. He and his wife are traveling this state talking to Alabamians, and everybody they can talk to, they're enjoying it. He told me the other day, he said, I'm meeting so many wonderful people all over this state and having a great time.
All right, there you go. Brad Presnell is a political consultant now for U.S. Senate candidate Rodney Walker. I understand as well, you also work for Congressman Dale Strong. And one of the biggest issues we've had in some of our local communities is the post office not getting stuff done on time. But the congressman has been working on that.
That's right, Yaffee. You and I have talked about the problems that we have in North Alabama about the post office. We've talked several times about it. And Congressman Strong is aware for that, and he knows because of our talking about it and the many calls and emails that his office has received, and he's been working hard pretty much since he took office. And I'm proud to say that a new post office is coming for zip code 35763, which is the Owen Crossroads area. And Yaffee, their problem mostly has been that the current post office is very small and not capable of handling the massive amounts of volume of mail-in packages due to the overwhelming growth that area has seen over the past 20 years. And we're hoping that the new facility should alleviate that problem. But we know that there's just not problems at Owens Crossroads. There are many problems across North Alabama with the Postal Service, and he's working to fix those. He's been pressing USPS to establish a standalone North Alabama-based processing and distribution facility. We lost that under Obama, and that has been a big deal to people in North Alabama. Basically, everything that comes into us has to go through Birmingham, and sometimes it stays in Birmingham for a long time, unfortunately. And also, address listings and overlapping zip code destinations has been a big problem for a lot of our smaller communities, including the residents in Priceville. And none of this would be possible without the great casework that his staff has been doing, assisting literally, Yaffee, hundreds of constituents with mail problems. So people in the 5th District have been speaking up about these problems, and Congressman Strong has been and will continue to do what he can do to fix these.
Yep. I mean, it's one of those things that we all have to deal with, you know. If you live in a certain area, we all use the post office from time to time. Maybe not as much as we did in the past, but it's definitely one of those things we all would like to see get better. And usually there are times I use it as an example that the government can't seem to get the post office right, but they want to take over our healthcare system. You think that's going to be
right.
that much better? I just don't think so. By the way, I've been asking this question to the listeners, and I'm still asking people to weigh in. We have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. Did Trump make the right decision when it comes to firing Kristi Noem, the head of Department of Homeland Security? Or maybe, you know, she was transferred, quote unquote, but it seems like she was fired. And do you like the replacement of Markwayne Mullin? So I'm getting people weighing in on our text line, but Brad, I want to know what you think about it.
I do think he made the right decision. There's been a lot of issues, as we know, what happened in Minnesota. And also, she was embarrassed during a committee hearing 2 days ago where some allegations that has been the biggest secret in Washington for many years came to light, and it kind of embarrassed the president. And that's one thing when you work in politics is the first rule is never embarrass your boss. And I think that probably had something to do with it also. But I think Homeland Security needs to start fresh. And I do like Markwayne Mullin. I think he'll be able to work with Tom Homan very well. And I think he'll be able to do a good job, Yaffee. I mean, we'll see. But I think that's a pretty good hire.
Okay. There you go. Now, one of the big issues as well, we're talking about the war in Iran. President Trump made an announcement this morning calling for the unconditional surrender of the Iranian military, said he will not accept anything less. He wants unconditional surrender. It seems like a lot of this was brought up because there were some reports that the Ayatollah's son might take over, and there are reports as well that he's worse than the Ayatollah, which Trump said is unacceptable. So then this morning he posts on Truth Social saying he wants unconditional surrender. He wants to be a part of the transition. What do you think about that, Brad?
I don't believe the Iranians are going to surrender. They seem pretty dug in and pretty fired up about all this, and I just don't see them surrendering. I mean, they've got a massive military. Of course, the land mass is incredible, and it's like Afghanistan times 10. So I don't see them surrendering.
So, okay, then what happens next?
I think it's going to be a protracted conflict. I don't think we're going to get in and get out if we want to fill our objectives. I think it's going to be longer than anticipated. I've seen a lot of military experts talk about there's never been a war won or conflict, whatever you want to call it. I know it's being called different things now. There's never been one won just based on airplane and, flying over and bombing. I mean, to basically go in and beat a country or do a regime change, you have to have boots on the ground. And I know nobody wants that, but that's probably what it will take.
Wow. So, I mean, there's talk about the Kurdish forces coming in being kind of our boots on the ground, but you don't even think it's going to be that. You think at some point we might have to put American troops on the ground there. Well,
if the Kurdish forces go in, I believe they're talking about northwest Iran, I think they'll get slaughtered. I mean, there's too many Iranians. They multiply the Kurdish forces by 50, and they would just be walking into a death trap, and we don't want that for them either. So this is a serious situation, and I don't know what the president and Pete Hegseth and the Department of War have planned, But, I mean, this is a mess, that's for sure.
I was going to say, you don't sound very optimistic about it. I mean, maybe you're just being realistic, but it almost sounds like you're kind of reluctant to have supported this.
Well, it just seems like it's just, I don't know, Yaffee. It just, sometimes you have a feeling about something, and I just kind of have a feeling that this is maybe a big deal. We're not just going to go in there and get out like we did with the 12-day war, that this is going to be protracted, and none of us want that. So hopefully we can do what our objectives are quickly and get out and get back to, what we're doing here in America and move on.
Speaking with Brad Presnell, political consultant, does work for the AEA, Dale Strong, Tommy Tuberville, and now Rodney Walker. Is there anything else you're looking at today you wanted to discuss, Brad? Maybe something going through the legislature, some education bills that have made their way through.
Well, one thing I'm really watching, and I think probably a lot of your listeners, is this Wes Allen, John Wall deal. The residency issues. This started when Gil Isbell filed a residency complaint against John Wall. And then when asked, Mr. Isbell said he wasn't doing it in conjunction with any campaign or persons. And now come to find out that it was all initiated by a $20,000 payment from the Allen campaign to Isbell's attorney to concoct this complaint. I think Mr. Isbell nor the Allen campaign were open about where the complaint truly came from. And then after a reporter saw the expenditure on a campaign finance report many weeks later and asked the campaign about it, the Allen campaign, Wes Allen said he'd reported every expenditure with full transparency, and they weren't hiding the fact that they paid the money. But when all of this was happening, we didn't see the Allen campaign raise their hand and say that the complaint and the money originated with them. And yet you have to wonder if they would have ever, if the reporter hadn't seen the expenditure on the campaign finance reports. I don't know the legalities about something like this, but it really doesn't pass the smell test. But this is classic Alabama politics. Wes Allen is now getting hit with questions about whether he followed the rules on where he actually lived. And while that's hanging out there, we find out his campaign was literally paying to get John Wall tossed off the ballot, wait for it, for residency. You can't make this stuff up, Yaffee. If you're going to play top dog on election law, maybe make sure your own address isn't a problem.
Yeah, it's interesting because I look at that whole situation, and really Wes Allen came out swinging immediately against John Wall. Now, I guess, was he really just that scared of that candidacy because Trump endorsed Wall that he felt he had to go after him pretty hard to begin with?
Well, John Wall took a long time deciding based on family issues and matters. And, he waited to the last minute. People knew he was thinking about it for 9 months. I mean, he wasn't quiet about it. I mean, he had full transparency. So Mr. Allen knew that John Wall was considering it. But yeah, as soon as he got in the race, it's been full frontal attack on John Wall. And I think John had just gotten in the race, really quickly. Then he gets the president's endorsement and he raises $1 million basically overnight. So I think Wes Allen has been backpedaling ever since then and looking for something he can do to basically eliminate Mr. Wall from the ballot.
Yeah, and if that's true too, I don't think it was realistic. I just don't think they were ever going to actually remove John Wall from the ballot. But we'll have to see what happens. Like you said, classic Alabama politics for sure. Brad Presnell, political consultant. Really appreciate you coming on. As always, my friend, we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you, Yaffee.
By the way, just to remind people, if you're just tuning in, Wes Allen is running for lieutenant governor. So is former Alabama Republican Party Chairman John Wall. And John Wall has been endorsed by Trump in that race, which is kind of interesting because Trump usually doesn't make endorsements for a lieutenant governor spot in a state. But there you go. So they're challenging each other now on residency and all that stuff. So it's like, Brad's right. It's like classic Alabama politics. All right. We'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
We're back on the Yaffee program. As you know, this is your woke detox center, your rehab. You deal with a lot of woke nonsense in your life every day. By the way, still got people weighing in. We have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. 866-494-WVNN, brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. Also, our Coleman Furniture Market free speech phone line. Same phone number, 866-494-9866. The question I've been asking everyone, Kristi Noem has been fired. Cue the Trump sound effect here. You're fired. Now, he says he's transferring her and said she did a pretty good job, which she did on the border. But she's had some other issues. It seems like she really was fired. Markwayne Mullin, who's the senator from Oklahoma, is going to take her place. I'm going to give more details on that, but I really just want to know if you think it's the right decision. Do you trust Trump in this decision? Just let me know. Did you support Kristi Noem? Do you think Trump has caved to the propaganda press here or something? Or maybe it doesn't really matter that Tom Homan is running things anyway. Curious your take. So we have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. By the way, speaking of the issue at the border, believe it or not, there was a rare voice of reason on The View on this subject. Now, she gets kind of interrupted at the end, which you'll hear in a moment, but Elizabeth Hasselbeck was on The View for years, kind of the conservative. Then she was off for a while, and I guess she was back on recently. I think made a very good point when it comes to, why we have to enforce immigration law. Something that people in The View don't get to hear that much, a good voice of reason on this. So, Walker, go ahead if you can. Play the View cut that I sent you.
I think all lives matter to God, and we're in uncommon times, so we need to have uncommon sense about things like this. Yes, there will be mistakes made, but I think if Kristi Noem were up for promotion right now and she put forward the statistics that 0 illegals released into the U.S. for 10 months straight have not crossed, okay, that nearly 3 million aliens have left the United States, that we have the lowest murder rate in 125 years, that fentanyl trafficking is down 56% at the border, and daily encounters have gone down 96%. Hang on one second. We need a strong border, especially now with our current global situation. And I believe that you may say you don't want border control and you're against ICE, but I actually don't believe you in your daily lives. How many people in the audience here had to go through security to get here? Raise your hand. Just be honest. Otherwise, you go to jail, I guess, for illegal trespassing, right? This is an authorized audience. They had to go through security to get through the border, to get right here, to just hear us talk. We need strong borders more than ever right now. We are being infiltrated.
But listen, can I give you on the border when Renee Good and Alex Peretti were murdered, and death is not a mistake. That was a murder. No, that is a murder. Now let me finish.
As were those killed by illegal immigrants.
The only part that was frustrating about that cut is at the end, Elizabeth Hasselbeck agreed with Sonny Hostin from The View, who said it was murder. And they weren't at the border. It was murder. And she's like, I agree. But, she made the point that there have been murders by illegal immigrants in this country, of course. We should care about them as well. Sonny Hostin doesn't seem to care about them. But it was not murder. I'm sorry. It was law enforcement acting in self-defense because they believed their lives were at threat. Now, you can disagree with how that went down. I think the Alex Peretti one, as I mentioned at the time, a little bit more murky, but Renee Good basically tried to hit. Maybe it wasn't on purpose, but instead of following the orders of Border Patrol, she rammed a car into the agent. So he obviously acted in self-defense. Whether you agree with him doing that or not, that's not murder. ICE agents aren't going out there believing that they need to kill American citizens. That's not their goal. That's not what they want to do. So the premise of Sonny Hostin is ridiculous. But the premise of Elizabeth Hasselbeck was good. Do you actually believe this? That we should just basically have open borders? Now what they'll say is, we need some borders, but we'll just still let in millions of people unvetted into this country. Or they'll say, the border needs to be secure, but ICE is too tough on people who are already here. The fact is, you can try to secure the actual border as much as you can, which we've done a good job since Trump has been president. But it doesn't mean as much if you're not enforcing the law inside the country as well. Part of the reason why a lot of people aren't even trying to get into the country is they know even if they succeed, ICE is going to find them and deport them. It's a part of the enforcement. So I mean, we don't believe this. It's funny. A lot of these issues. I was driving to work today, and I saw someone with a sign in their yard that said, "ICE is Trump's Gestapo." That person really doesn't believe that, right? If you really thought they were Gestapo, you would be too afraid to put a sign in your yard because you would think, oh, the Gestapo's going to get you. Obviously, it's not Trump's Gestapo. So we have just been, I don't know, woke mind virus, as Elon Musk calls it. It's a disease. So I think it's true. All right, we're going to talk more about this when we get back here on the Yaffee program. Back in just a moment.
The Yaffee program. The Yaffee program on WVNN.
All right, well, you're fired. Trump says it once again. Okay, he didn't really say that. He didn't directly say Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security Secretary, has been fired. What's interesting about this, too, is there was some thinking that maybe this was an attempt to make a deal so we could fund DHS again, but Democrats say, no, it's not good enough. I don't know if anything's going to be good enough for them. But yeah, that was one of the big news items yesterday, that Trump made an announcement on Truth Social that she is going to be transferring to a different position, and he's appointing Markwayne Mullin, who is a current senator from Oklahoma, for this. And I'm getting a bunch of people weighing in. It looks like most of you on our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. Looks like most of you support Trump's decision, mostly because you trust Trump, which I understand, and that you believe Markwayne Mullin will do a pretty good job. I'm sure he will, at least I think so. And my general take on Kristi Noem, I think she did a pretty good job as governor of South Dakota. I think she, I heard her speak at a Republican event maybe a couple of years ago in Alabama. And her speech was pretty good. I also was kind of surprised when she was appointed to that position because I didn't really know what her experience was in terms of Homeland Security. I didn't really understand the pick. I had nothing against her at the time, but I didn't really understand the pick. By the way, of course, we are going to talk more about that today on the Yaffee program, and I want you to weigh in. We have our Yaffee text line brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. We also have the Coleman Furniture Market free speech phone line. Same phone number, 866-494-9866, if you want to tell me if you support Trump's decision on this. You can just tell me yes or no. You have to give me an answer. I'd prefer an answer beyond that, but you can say yes or no. Take a kind of an informal poll today. But I'll tell you what really made me question Kristi Noem's judgment. And there are a couple of things that happened in recent months that I think led up to this decision by Trump to get rid of her. But a lot of it started with the chaos in Minneapolis. Now, at first, it seemed like she was doing fine. And you look at the job at the border itself is pretty secure, so you have to give her credit for that. Way better than Mayorkas. But when Alex Preddy was killed by agents, she started to make comments and then was starting to contradict herself, and I think it caused problems. I'll give you an example here. So, Walker, go ahead if you can. Play Kristi Noem, cut 1 for me. This was right after Alex Preddy was killed.
When you perpetuate violence against a government because of ideological reasons and for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence, that is the definition of domestic terrorism. This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts.
But that wasn't really the facts. She was saying at one point that he came armed and ready to kill agents. Now, Alex Preddy in some ways was a problem. He was interfering with law enforcement. Video came out where he shattered a taillight of an ICE agent. He was definitely a problem. But the actual incident, he was not there to just shoot and kill ICE agents. And that's basically what Kristi Noem had said. So that already was like, okay, this is not great judgment. And Trump agrees with me on that. There's a reason why he sent Tom Homan there. There's a reason why he kind of changed his strategy there. He agrees with me on that. So he decides to get rid of her. But there was much more to it than that. So Noam recently spoke in front of Congress, in front of the Senate during a hearing. And Senator John Kennedy out of Louisiana brought something up. This is a Republican Trump supporter, but he brings something up that really did not make Kristi Noem look good. And then I'll talk about how Trump says he didn't know about this. But play the John Kennedy cut for me.
And you're saying that the president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president know you were going to do this?
Yes.
He did?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
well, they were
overwhelmingly
effective in your name recognition. I mean, I personally just, I mean, to me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot. And and I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. It's just hard for me to believe, knowing the president, as I do, that you said, Mr. President, here's some ads I've cut, and I'm going to spend $220 million running them, that he would have agreed to that. I don't think Russ Vought at OMB would have agreed to that. It's something we have to defend. I'm on the Appropriations Committee. My research shows that you did not bid them out, that you pick, in fact, one of the people you picked, the strategy group, Safe America Media was a company formed 11 days before you picked them, and that the strategy group got most of the money, and the head of that is married to your former spokesperson.
So I wanted to play that long cut because a couple things were revealed. $20 million for an ad campaign for Border Patrol seems insane on its face. But then apparently you look at the ads, and the ads are basically just making Kristi Noem look good. And then they look deeper into it, and they realize they just gave all this money for these ads to a company that she had connections to with a deep conflict of interest. And then she says under oath there that Trump approved it. That was the big thing. She said Trump approved it, knew about it. Well, Reuters did an interview with Trump this week, asked Trump about it, and he said he knew nothing about it. And then Senator John Kennedy earlier this week said he had talked with Trump himself about this after this hearing, and he said Trump was madder than a wet hen. That's how John Kennedy talks, of course. So you look at all this information, and it was kind of leading up to a problem. It didn't seem like she was going to be able to stay. And a lot of that news about that, with what Trump said, broke yesterday, and then Trump made the announcement that he's, quote unquote, transferring her. And the main reason why he's saying he's going to transfer her, doesn't want to outright fire her, is he doesn't want to give the propaganda press and the Democrat Party more ammunition. Let me give you an example of that. So Hakeem Jeffries, who is the House Minority Leader, he's really the one being intransigent when, really getting in the way when it comes to Department of Homeland Security funding. And he basically took a victory lap about this yesterday, which is something Trump really didn't want, but, you can kind of understand why the Democrats are doing this. Go on to play the Hakeem Jeffries cut for me.
Kristi Noem is gone. Good riddance. Kristi Noem has been fired, consistent with what we have demanded on behalf of the American people. A change in personnel is not sufficient. We need a change in policy. And that has to be bold, dramatic, transformational, and meaningful. This change in personnel is welcome. Kristi Noem was a disgrace. And we made clear what was going to happen. One way or the other. Pam Bondi, she's got to go. And Stephen Miller has got to go. And we're going to approach those two toxic individuals with the same intensity that has now led to the termination of Kristi Noem.
All right, so obviously they're not letting up. And this is what caused some of the problem. This is why some Republicans are probably not for this move. And that's why I wanted to ask you on our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. Do you think Trump made the right decision here? Did he handle it right? Do you like Markwayne Mullin? Or does it give the Democrats more ammunition? I mean, overall, I think Trump did make the right decision. She was becoming a problem. There were other reports as well. Find a way to get rid of her. As I mentioned, I had no problem with her before. I seen her speak. She did a good job. Seems like she did okay on the border, but I also, I don't know. I didn't understand her appointment to begin with, really. For Department of Homeland Security, it just didn't seem like she had the qualifications. Now, the person who's going to replace her, and now he's going to try to get confirmed by the Senate, we'll see. But Markwayne Mullin, who is a senator from Oklahoma, he found out about this yesterday. You know, Trump called him yesterday before making the announcement. Go ahead and play the Markwayne Mullin cut for me, Walker.
It's just, pretty humbling when you start thinking about it. A little kid from Westville, Oklahoma, gets to serve in the president's cabinet. That's pretty neat. The phone call I got from the president was right before the statement went out. There's a lot of work we can do to get Department of Homeland Security working, working for the American people. The Department of Homeland Security has a very broad jurisdiction, and I think there's a lot of work that we need to do. When I go into this position, yes, I'm a Republican, yes, I'm conservative, but Department of Homeland Security is to keep everybody, regardless if you support me, if you don't support me, regardless of what your thoughts are. I'm here to enforce the policies that Congress passed. I was excited. The president, first of all, the president, I have a really good relationship. We talk all the time anyways. I've got to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting the call today, but super excited. And I'm more excited about just ready to get started. Once I make that transition, my focus is to keep the homeland secure. I want to try to earn their support, and I'm going to be very open and honest with them. And at the end of the day, all I can do is do my job. And so I'm not going to get in a tit for tat, but if they have real concerns, I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to see if it's practical. She was tasked to do a very difficult job, and I think she has performed the best she can do underneath the circumstances.
There you go. By the way, I wanted to read some of what Trump posted when he made this decision. He said, I am pleased to announce that the highly respected United States Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Markwayne Mullin, will become the United States Secretary of Homeland Security effective March 31st. The current Secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, will be moving to be Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere we are announcing on Saturday in Doral. Said, I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland. So, is this... He says it's just a transfer. I got some people on the text line saying, they just see it as a transfer, maybe even a promotion. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I just laid out why it's a firing, at least in my opinion. But maybe you disagree. But tell me, is this the right decision? Now that you know all this information, let me know. We have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN, brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. We'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. Question of the day. People weighing in on our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. Brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. Just asking, do you think Trump made the right decision in firing Kristi Noem? And one person says this, said, Trump always makes the right decisions. I trust his judgment, and it seems like he knew what he was doing. So most people seem to agree that it was the right decision, but I'd like to get your take as well, 866-494-9866. Want to talk about something else here real quick. So I saw that one of our Huntsville City School board members, always posting on social media, said this. And they were reacting to a story about the fact that a bill that would require public schools to display the 10 Commandments with historical context is passed an Alabama committee in the Alabama House. And she said in response, she said, why are we allowing this? Anyone who has ever taken a history course understands this is not what the legislative process is for. It says a proper law would be schools are allowed to display the 10 Commandments, not all schools must display the 10 Commandments. And then she said, stop giving your rights away to these idiots. I've seen her post in the past, too, say, what good is it to have the display of the Ten Commandments? Now, the reason why I want to respond to this, it seems like this is exactly what the role of the legislature is. Am I wrong on that? The fact is, I mean, what are we spending at the government level? Probably more on than anything else in the state of Alabama. Education. We're spending a ton of money on education. The legislature is in charge of that. Huntsville City Schools, whatever these city schools, they are basically government monopolies. They're government institutions. So you're telling me you can have a government institution like this where the Alabama legislature shouldn't weigh in? Isn't that their job? Don't we want our lawmakers, if we're going to say we need public schools, don't we want the lawmakers to be involved in what the public schools are doing? Now, I guess you can make an argument there should be more local control, and I do think there's an argument for that. That maybe, okay, the Huntsville City Council does it or something. But the idea that it's not the role of government to regulate what happens in a public school just seems a little off to me. Now, with the question of what good does it do, the point is we have a culture in too many public schools in this state and in this country that rejects our founding history. Rejects American values, American culture. They're trying to push a lie that we are not influenced, our culture, by Christianity, by the Bible, by the rule of law. The fact is, when you're looking at the history of Western civilization and the history of this country and the founding of this country, when it comes to culture, when it comes to government, when it comes to education, it has its roots in the Judeo-Christian ethic aligned with Greek philosophy. That's where their roots are. And yet, we're saying we tend to ignore that. In our public schools, we're afraid to teach these things. We're afraid to acknowledge that. We say, oh, that's just for the church. Well, it's one thing to say, okay, if you're teaching actual theology, okay, fine, that could be just for the church. Or if you're forcing people to believe a certain way religiously, you could say, okay, that's not the role of the school. But you would think the main role of the school would be to educate the future generation on what has made this country great. The proper role of school is that we can build up people in the future to participate in self-government. It might be good to understand the history of that government, the history of that culture, the history of this country, the foundation of it all. And the big foundation of our rule of law comes from the Judeo-Christian ethic, which is guided by the Ten Commandments. This idea that we're supposed to teach these things, but then you add the Ten Commandments. Oh, we can't do that. It's intertwined. It's a part of that. And we don't teach it anymore because we're so afraid of being, separation of church and state. So I just disagree. But, even if you disagree with it, why disagree with it so strongly? Why are they so offended by it? Is it really worth being that offended over? They're kind of revealing themselves, I think, by being so outraged by it. Why would displaying the Ten Commandments outrage you so much? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me unless you really are just attacking Christianity. All right, coming up next, going to lighten things up. As usual, What's Trending? Walker is here producing, so she'll do What's Trending, and then we have the Yaffee program Rewind at the end of the show. We'll be back here on WVNN.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. Someone on the text line said, Yaffee, you're hitting on all cylinders today. Well, thank you. No, I could do the typical, wife thing and be like, what do you mean? I'm not doing it usually. But I won't do that. No, I'm not. No, I appreciate the comments. Walker is here as well, so let's get right to it. We have What's Trending with Walker.
Keeping you up to date with all that's trending in your world.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
You guys know how to post videos to Facebook?
It's What's Trending.
Sponsored by Coleman Furniture Market, the best furniture store anywhere, worth the drive. They always have the latest trending in furniture, which is why they sponsor What's Trending. By the way, you all know this. My wife is very, very pregnant. And when you're very, very pregnant, you like to have a comfortable place to sit. And luckily we have that. That makes things a little bit better in the house. So we have a Lazy Boy recliner that she likes to sit in. The couches as well, the love seats. And most of the furniture in my house is from Coleman Furniture Market. Do what I did, especially maybe your wife is pregnant. I don't know. Make sure she has a comfortable place to sit or lay down. You can do that by going to Coleman Furniture Market, seeing their latest inventory. They get new stuff in all the time, and their selection is huge. So go to the store in the heart of Coleman, Alabama. You can find out more on their Facebook page or their Instagram page, or go to the website ColemanFurnitureMarket.com. That's ColemanFurnitureMarket.com. When you do, let them know you heard about it from Yaffee. All right, Walker, what is number 5 for this Friday?
Number 5, want to take time to remind people that time will be changing this weekend.
At
2 a.m. on Sunday.
Forward.
It'll go forward an hour. And most people
lose an hour of sleep.
Still dislike it.
You know what's really funny about that? I don't mean to interrupt, but there are members of Congress like Tuberville. They want to make daylight savings time permanent.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on where you are in the country, a lot of people want to make standard time permanent.
Yes, I was about to say that if daylight savings time was permanent, that would mean the sun would rise at 9 a.m. in Detroit.
Right.
And
wow.
And if standard time was permanent, then the sun would rise at 4 a.m. in Seattle.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. That's why I don't think they're ever going to change this. Because believe it or not, there is some usefulness to it for several places. When it happens, when we change it the day, it's annoying for the day and maybe the week. But it is useful because there are still times of the year where days are shorter no matter what you do. So, this, I agree. That's why I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
Probably not.
Was that number 5? Was that?
No, it was number 5. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. What's number 4?
Number 4, we recently talked about Mr. Clean, the mascot, retiring. But despite that, Magic Eraser has come out with a new product for your shower and tub. It has a handled brush that you can stick the Magic Eraser to, and it will angle itself to fit in at the best angle for you.
Oh. It's a simple thing, but I could see that being very useful because, I use the Magic Eraser sometimes, and without a handle or something, it kind of breaks up in your hand and stuff.
Yeah, that's the only part that I don't like about Magic Erasers is how it breaks up. So having the handle would be very nice.
Yeah.
And the eraser itself is made to be more durable with supposedly being 2 times stronger.
Okay, well, that's good because you're right. That is the biggest problem. It's great. I mean, it works trust me, I've had to use it to clean my walls because I have a 2-year-old who decided that she was making works of art on our walls. So I had to clean that off. But anyway, I used a Magic Eraser. It did well, but that's true. So was Mr. Clean, the mascot, on it?
It does show him on the packaging. So maybe it's just the commercials that he won't be in.
Okay. I don't know.
I don't.
I'm curious.
That seems like they're putting him to work to me.
Yeah. All right. What's number 3?
Number 3, Labubu is partnering with Hello Kitty. So they now have Labubus that are dressed up as different Sanrio characters.
Dear God.
Has Hello Kitty, My Melody, Kuromi, Cinnamoroll, and Puchako sold in mystery boxes. And then they have a specialty Labubu that has it wearing Hello Kitty inspired overalls with red and blue accents and an embroidered sleep mask, as well as a Hello Kitty pillow accessory.
So are we not past the Labubu fad? Is it still a fad that's popular out there?
I guess it is. People just love them so
we were
much.
done with this.
And I still don't get it.
Because it's weird. That's all it is.
Yeah, they announced it today. It will be launching on Thursday, March 12th.
Okay.
It costs
I'm
$40.
It's $40.
It's $40, and then the specialty one is $150.
Okay, I definitely don't get it. Evie's too young, but if she's old enough one day and is like, I want a Labubu, I'll be like, you better get a job because $40, $150, you want a Labubu, you're getting a job, all right? I'm not paying for that.
They're not even that cute to me.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that it's weird, so people like it because it's weird. That's all. That's all it is. All it is. All right, what's number 2?
Okay, number 2, Lego has partnered with NASA and released a Artemis space launch system that features a hand crank and will actually show you the 3-stage separation of the rocket.
I mean, that's kind of cool. It's funny because it would be nice if Artemis finished the actual space launch system. We have the Legos now. That's ready to go, but we can't actually get the real space launch system to be ready. But that's it. I wouldn't mind the Lego thing, though.
Yeah, it looks pretty neat. I meant to send you a picture of it. It also comes with 4 tiny astronauts for you to have.
I wonder if my son will be into that kind of thing.
And it's about $60, depending on where you get it. But it's $60 on the Lego website.
See, I can't buy that. See, this is going to be my future. Evie's going to be like, Daddy, I want a Labubu. And then I'll be like, no, it's too expensive. And then my little boy is going to be born soon. He's going to be like, Daddy,
I want some Legos.
I want a space launch system Legos. And it's $60. And I'll be like, well, that's cool. You can have that, son. And just...
I think you're biased.
And then I'll have to buy both, and then I will have no money. Ever. They're going to have to get jobs, I just think. All right, what's number 1?
Number 1, Apple has dropped a new, more affordable MacBook laptop. It says that it is a pocketbook-friendly option starting at $599 for a 13-inch laptop.
Now, is it an actual? I guess it is, because they have the Chromebooks, which are small too, but they're not real laptops. It just does stuff. They're basically like tablets with keyboards. They just do stuff online. But this seems like one that has an actual hard drive and stuff.
I did see someone say that they just called it an iPhone with a keyboard. It just says that it's a cheaper version of the MacBook laptop. 13-inch liquid retina display, 1080p FaceTime HD camera, spatial audio speakers, and dual mics. Powered by A18, the new MacBook provides up to 16 hours of battery life.
Not gonna lie, it's pretty smart because it said it could fit in like a purse, I guess.
Yes.
Or a pocketbook. It's actually pretty smart. That's good. I could see women wanting that for that reason.
I guess at least a 13-inch pocketbook.
Because my wife has like a really big laptop, and she had to buy this giant laptop case for it that looks kind of like a purse.
Yeah, I have I think it's the 16-inch one, and it's very difficult to find a bag that it fits in. Right.
So I guess they probably did surveys and stuff and did that. So that's actually. I'm not an Apple person. I don't have any Apple products, but I could see that. Now see, this is my future.
All right.
Evie's going to go, I want a Labubu. Baby boy's going to go, I want this space launch Lego. And then Stephanie, my wife's going to go, I want this small MacBook that can fit in my purse. And I'm going to be like, y'all better get jobs, all right? I can't afford all of these things.
Well, maybe you should ask for a raise, Yaffee.
I need a raise because my family just keeps wanting more stuff from me. It's like, what do I get, huh? No, that would be pretty funny. All right, Walker, I appreciate it. as always. Thank you. We'll be back
You're welcome.
with the Yaffee program rewind in, that was number one, right? By the
Yes,
way.
that was number one.
Okay, and I thought I heard something was like, I didn't skip. All right, we'll be back in a moment with the Yaffee program rewind. This is WVNN.
The Yaffee program.
Final segment of the show of the week here on the Yaffee program. News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. By the way, my mom just texted me. Hi, Mom. But my mom just texted me and said that she would buy EVL Labubu. So, your money. Apparently, the fancy ones cost $150 or something, but that's fine. If Grandma wants to do it, if Nana wants to do it, that's that's fine. If he wants a Labubu. All right, let's end the show like we usually do. We have the Yaffee program rewind. All right, so I started the show today, and this is the time of the show, by the way, where I remind you, if you missed any of it live, the podcast will be up on the website, WVNN.com, or anywhere you get your podcasts. But I started the show today because President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that the only thing he is going to accept from Iran in this war is unconditional surrender. He says basically that there's talk of the Ayatollah's son taking place. He said that would be unacceptable. The only deal he's going to accept at this point now, he says, is unconditional surrender. Now, I know President Trump yesterday talked about the latest in Iran in this war. We played it earlier. Go ahead, Walker, play Trump Cut One for me.
The United States military, together with the wonderful Israeli partners, continues to totally demolish the enemy far ahead of schedule and at levels that people have never seen before, actually. We have the greatest military anywhere in the world. Their Navy is gone. 24 ships in 3 days. That's a lot of ships. We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour, knocking them out like nobody thought was possible. As soon as they set off a missile, within 4 minutes, the launcher gets hit. They don't know what's happening. I'm once again calling on all members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the military, and the police to lay down their arms. They're only going to be killed. And now is the time to stand up for the Iranian people and help take back your country.
So what President Trump said on Truth Social as well is there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. After that, and the selection of a great and acceptable leader, we and many of our wonderful and very brave allies and partners will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, making it economically bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Iran will have a great future. Make Iran great again, is what Trump said. So there you go. We'll have to see exactly what happens there. As I mentioned, though, at the top of the show as well, we went into more details, so check out the podcast. But this is all about China, too. Iran had basically become a proxy for China. So did Venezuela. So by doing this, we're also taking out some Chinese proxies, and we want to be better prepared if China decides to invade Taiwan, which they still seem to want to do. So that's playing a role in this. Russia is too, but I think it's more and more about China. So if you missed the first segment of the show, we talked about it. The podcast is up. Then we did the Alabama bullet points as we usually do. One of the stories I had in the bullet points was the fact that Tommy Tuberville is calling for the deportation of anyone who practices Sharia law. And he says the recent strikes on Iran, just more of a reason to implement that policy. So I have the details and other news stories in the bullet points. Then in the first hour, we also spoke with Brad Presnell, who is a political consultant. He is now working for U.S. Senate candidate. I'm almost blanking on his name. I almost said the wrong name. So I want to make sure I get that right. Unfortunately, the guy that he's working for, this is just kind of proof that he has a tough road. Rodney Walker. I almost said Morgan Murphy, but that's somebody else. Rodney Walker is who Brad's talking for. And the fact that I forgot shows that, I like Brad, but I don't think Rodney has much of a chance in that race. Remember, Trump endorsed Barry Moore. So just to kind of point that out. But he talked about Rodney Walker's campaign for the U.S. Senate. Also, Dale Strong securing a post office for the Owens Crossroads community, which actually is a pretty big deal. So we talked about with him earlier on in the show. Then I actually played a cut from The View, believe it or not. Elizabeth Hasselbeck was actually a pretty good voice of reason on The View when it came to immigration. In fact, Walker, go ahead and play that cut again of The View.
I think all lives matter to God. And we're in uncommon times, so we need to have uncommon sense about things like this. Yes, there will be mistakes made, but I think if Kristi Noem were up for promotion right now and she put forward the statistics that 0 illegals released into the U.S. for 10 months straight have not crossed, okay, that nearly 3 million aliens have left the United States, that we have the lowest murder rate in 125 years, that fentanyl trafficking is down 56% at the border, and daily encounters have gone down 96%. Hang on one second. We need a strong border, especially now with our current global situation. And I believe that you may say you don't want border control and you're against ICE, but I actually don't believe you in your daily lives. How many people in the audience here had to go through security to get here? Raise your hand. Just be honest. Otherwise, you go to jail, I guess, for illegal trespassing, right? This is an authorized audience. They had to go through security to get through the border, to get right here, to just hear us talk. We need strong borders more than ever right now. We are being infiltrated.
But Elizabeth, can I give you on the border when Renee Good and Alex Peretti were murdered, and death is not a mistake. That was a murder. No, that is a murder. Now let me finish.
As were those killed by illegal immigrants.
It was not a murder. Because you say it like that. It was not a murder. It was ICE officers acting in self-defense. So we talked about that earlier on in the show. We also had to go over the fact, and that was a question of the day for people weighing in on the text line. Do you support the fact that President Trump basically fired Kristi Noem? And I went over all the details of kind of what started that, including this comment from Kristi Noem during the Alex Peretti stuff in Minneapolis. Play the Kristi Noem cut for me, Walker.
When you perpetuate violence against a government because of ideological reasons and for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence, that is the definition of domestic terrorism. This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts.
But it wasn't really the facts. She also said in another statement he was armed, ready to kill ICE agents, which was not. It just wasn't true in the situation. Alex Peretti wasn't a good guy, and he got in the way, and I believe ICE acted in self-defense, but it doesn't mean that you go that much in the other direction because it just destroys your credibility and hurts the investigation. So Trump has fired her. In fact, he has replaced her with Mark Wayne Mullen, who is currently a senator from Oklahoma. Go ahead and play the Mark Wayne Mullen cut for me.
It's just, pretty humbling when you start thinking about it. A little kid from Westville, Oklahoma, gets to serve in the president's cabinet. That's pretty neat. The phone call I got from the president was right before this statement went out. There's a lot of work we can do to get Department of Homeland Security working, working for the American people. The Department of Homeland Security has a very broad jurisdiction, and I think there's a lot of work that we need to do. When I go into this position, yes, I'm a Republican, yes, I'm conservative. But Department of Homeland Security is to keep everybody, regardless if you support me, if you don't support me, regardless of what your thoughts are. I'm here to enforce the policies that Congress passed. I was excited. The president, first of all, the president and I have a really good relationship. We talk all the time anyways. I've got to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting the call today, but super excited. And I'm more excited about just ready to get started. Once I make that transition, my focus is to keep the homeland secure. I want to try to earn their support, and I'm going to be very open and honest with them. And at the end of the day, all I can do is do my job, and so I'm not going to get in a tit for tat. But if they have real concerns, I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to see if it's practical. She was tasked to do a very difficult job, and I think she has performed the best she can do underneath the circumstances.
So I think Trump made the right decision. At least that's what it looks like right now. If you missed us talking about that earlier, the podcast is up. We also had What's Trending, of course, reminding you, by the way, spring forward, daylight savings time. This weekend, we had that on What's Trending. Good job with Walker there. And there you go. Podcast is up there. Hope you have a good weekend. Thanks to Walker for producing. And I'll be back on Monday at the same time. See you then.
It's the Yaffee Program on WVNN.